So I just want to welcome everybody to the official unveiling of the portrait ceremony for former Mayor Ken Folk. A couple of words. 10th Mayor of the Allen, serving 3 years. In 1997, with an unexpected resignation of Mayor Lilly and the appointment of Councilmember Terrell as mayor, Ken Folk was appointed to the City Council, place number 5, on April 17th and served until 2016. Although his term was delayed due to COVID impact on May election, and boy, was that an impact. Mayor Folk kicked his term by working with council to set the strategic direction for maneuvering through the impact of COVID on the economic and continuing city growth from 104,000 people over to 110,000 residents. As mayor, Ken Folk was readily available and easy accessible to citizens of Allen, listening to their concerns, problems, and ideas, and a lot of gripes and complaints. A lot of people didn't know where we were going, but Ken was there to listen. Under his leadership, he appointed 2 ad hoc committees, which led to the creation of 2 new boards, the Community Engagement Advisory Board and the Downtown Design Review Board. He also appointed the 2023 GO Bond Steering Committee. Mayor Folk, he stressed the citizens' involvement was and still is the heart of effective local government, and it is the heart of Allen. And I think he accomplished this through all the success during his term in office. So, with that said, I'd like to invite Mayor Folk and your family to come up. Unveil.
Thank you, Babe. Appreciate all those kind words and remarks. I would also like to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here today to be able to share this special moment with me, and specifically to my friends, short-term, long-term, and my short-term, long-term supporters. I just want to thank you so much for being here. Your presence means more to me than what you will ever know. Thank you. I am a blessed man, and I think the city of Allen is a blessed city. What makes me blessed is I have the great fortune to be married to the best woman, best wife that a man could ever be married to. Obviously, my wife, Susan, she's my moral compass, and she helps me in more ways than I can count. I'm also very blessed because I have 3 great children, all who are adults at this point in time. They're all gainfully employed, doing great, they're off the payroll. That's the best type of kids you can raise, right? So, yeah. Anyway, my older son, John, he lives in Atlanta, and then my younger son, Stephen, lives in Austin. And then obviously my daughter, she lives here in Allen, and she's here with her husband, Chuck. When you run and serve as mayor, getting a portrait made is something that never crosses your mind. It's just, you just don't think about that stuff. But I want to ask everybody that when you pull out your driver's license and you look at your picture, do you look at it and say, that doesn't look like me, right? But a good friend told me one time, it looks more like you than anybody else. Well, fortunately, that's not the way portraits are, because they can enhance it and make you look so much better than what you really are. And I want to say thank you to Shelley George for working on getting the portrait made, but also for making me look much better than I really am. I know I'm not that good looking, so it's not a big deal to me. First of all, years ago, when I got off the council in 2006, I kind of thought about maybe running for mayor after I got off, but it really wasn't good timing for me because my kids were kind of, in high school, fixing to go to college, and just all of the activity that surrounds that just did not make it convenient. After the kids got in college and started to get out of college around 2012 to 2013, I feel like I'm getting feedback. I hope it's not too bad. Anyway, I still hear it. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to get as far away from it as I can. I'll stand back here and hopefully it goes away. You don't lay down?
You don't need it.
Okay. Wait a second. But anyway, about 2012, 2013, I kind of decided that maybe it might be a good timing to go ahead and consider possibly running for mayor. But at the time, as many of y'all know, Steve Terrell was mayor. He was a good mayor, and I was friends with him, and I didn't have any gripes with him. So I just thought, well, I'll wait and see when Steve retires. I might decide to run after he does that. Of course, after a few years, I kind of said, well, maybe he's not going to retire. We need to kind of move on, and so I kind of left that all in the rearview mirror and just said, I'll just go on with life and not worry about it anymore, and didn't really consider it any further. However, what changed? What changed to make me want to run for mayor? Well, first of all, in 2018, we had a term limit election that was passed that basically included a 12-year lifetime term limit. And obviously that was going to be the cause to have Steve Terrell retire from the council. And that passed about the time where he was already reelected for another 3 years. So he was going to be on council until May of 2020. And again, I didn't really even think at that time that I was even going to run for mayor. But close to that same time, we had a big development that was proposed in Allen. It was going to be some super high density apartments in our downtown area. I wasn't even aware of it. A good friend of mine called me and said, hey, Ken, are you aware of this development that's being proposed down there? And I said, I have no clue what you're talking about. And he said, you better get down here and take a look at this, because I think if you saw it, you'd be pretty upset about it. So I got the information, I started looking at it, and I was pretty upset. I really did not like that development, because it was basically give to the developer and nothing back to the city. And so that kind of got me reinvigorated and re-engaged and starting to pay a lot more attention to what was going on in our community. And really the third thing that really was the tipping point for me that changed my mind was just the outreach from a lot of people that became worried about what was going to happen on council. Well, Steve Terrell's going to retire. Who's going to take his place? Who's eligible? Can you do it? Can you do it? And I said, I think I actually am eligible, so I could do it, but I don't know if I really want to do it at this point in my life. But the people kept coming back and saying, hey, we feel that there's a little bit of void of leadership that's going to happen when he gets off, and we really think you should consider doing it. And I said, no, I think I'm good where I'm at. I don't necessarily think that that's something that I need to do. But what really changed my mind was many friends and many supporters called me and basically said that repeatedly, they said that they believed that I had the leadership traits, the relevant and significant experience, and most importantly, the integrity to do the best job possible as mayor of the city of Allen. First of all, when I heard that, and after I heard it multiple times, it really humbled me, because I never looked at myself as that. But the more that they said it, I guess the more I believed it. So I kind of said, okay, I think I need to give some serious consideration to this. So like in any decision that I make in my life, I always have to seek the advice of higher authority. So, and there's two authorities in my life that are number one to me. First of all is God. I prayed to God to ask, is this your will or is this my will that I'm trying to seek? And then I went to the second highest authority, Susan. She moved. Okay, she moved. So we talked about it for a while, and then she said, you know what, if you feel that that is going to make you happy, then why don't you go for it? So after I felt like I got 2 thumbs up, I committed myself to going ahead and pursuing running for mayor. And that's what I did. But as I prepared to run for mayor, I thought, well, I need to kind of get my things in order to figure out what am I going to stand for, what goals would I like to set, because people are going to ask. Obviously, I had goals. Many of you know what those goals are because you've seen what I've done over the last 2.5, 3 years, and I'm not necessarily going to repeat those, but one thing that I always feel is important for anybody in an elected position is, kind of what are your ideals? What do you stand for? What do you, what would you recommend to somebody else that might be serving in that same position? So I kind of developed a list of ideals, and this isn't a complete list, but I'll just kind of run it down just so you kind of understand where I came from when I decided to run for mayor. First of all is I wanted to make sure that I was open-minded to everybody that came and talked to me. Second, I wanted to make sure that I was listening to all citizens about their concerns, not my concerns. I wanted to be as inclusive as possible, so I listened to everybody, regardless of who they were or where they came from or what they were like. I also wanted to make sure that I was as best informed about any issues that were coming to council, but I also wanted to make sure that all council members were as well informed as I was at the same time, because I wanted us all to be on the same level playing field and all getting the best information possible, hopefully to make the best decisions possible for our community. Because I have seen situations where people make decisions without the best information, and it never turns out good. The other thing that I wanted to do is to bring order to how the council makes decisions and operates. I also wanted to be punctual. I hope every council member that worked with me understands how punctual I am. Got it? They got it. That was a little bit of a change between me and Steve Terrell, because if you know, the old adage about Steve is Steve operated on Terrell time. Terrell time could be 15 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour. You just never knew with Steve. So anyway, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just kind of saying there's a little bit of difference there. The other thing is I felt that I wanted to make sure that I, as well as other council members, were courteous to all citizens, regardless of whether we agree with them and their position or not. I also wanted to make sure that we all respected everyone's time, because I don't like my time to be wasted, and I'm sure other people don't want their time wasted. And last, and most important to me, is that I wanted to be myself and not to be someone who I am not. And I hope that I achieved that in my tenure as mayor. I hope that these ideals, among others, have benefited both the city council and the city as a whole over the last few years during my leadership. What helped me more in this role, I think, here's a couple of things I'm going to say, is things that helped me in this role is, one, there are a lot of long-term employees in the city that had been with the city for 15, 20 plus years that I knew that were faces that I could go to. And if I had questions about something in the city that related to their area of expertise, I could bypass the city manager and maybe go ask. And they might not even tell him. That was a real good thing. Although I do know that the city manager does like people to come tell him when council members tell them something, but we know how it works. But those people, just so that you know who some of them are, there are the likes of Tim Dentler, Tom Keener, Teresa Warren, Chris Flanagan, Steve Massey, Mark Kaufman, Shelley George, our fire chief, Jonathan Boyd, Dan Bowman, and many others. Beyond that, I also had many great examples to follow, as I had the honor to meet and work with every mayor dating all the way back to Don Rodenbaugh. I don't know if Joe remembers, but Don and you, I think, were on the housing subcommittee for the comprehensive plan update that was started in like 1985. Right. All right, good. So I was able to work with Don, Joe, Kevin Lilly, Stephen Terrell, and Debbie Stout. I actually served on city council with Debbie as well. And they're all great people. They were all great mayors. And they were great mentors and examples to me, something that I could aspire to. And they're also very good friends. Similarly, I have worked with 3 city secretaries in the city of Allen, dating all the way back to Marty Hendricks. Some of you may remember her. I also worked with Judy Morrison, may she rest in peace. And then lastly, I worked with Shelley George just before getting off council, and then was able to get back and work with her again. Those 3 women were great examples of the best when it comes to municipal clerks and city secretaries. They've all been president of the State of Texas Association for City Managers. They've done so many different things, won so many different state level awards, and that's every single one of them here in the state of Texas from the city of Allen. So we definitely are blessed with their presence. As you know, the mayor works very closely with the city secretary because we coordinate a lot of things, a lot of activities that's going on in the city. And since I only had 2.5 years, since I got 6 months cut off of my term, I felt some urgency to try to get as much done as I could, because I knew that if I wasn't coming back, I wanted to be able to look back and say, hey, I got everything done I could. So that may have made me look like I was a little more demanding than the typical mayor. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. But anyway, I hope it wasn't too bad. Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate all your helps. I've also had the good fortune to see the city of Allen evolve since I moved to Allen in 1984. For those that don't remember, back then Allen was just under 10,000 people. Very small town, a bedroom community, very little commercial, hardly any at all. We had kind of that real estate crisis that kind of affected real estate prices, and next thing you know, everybody was upside down on their real estate, and guess what? Our property taxes went way up. And don't everybody get been out of shape when I mention this, but our tax rate back in the late 1980s and early 1990s were in like the 77 cent per $100 valuation range. It sounds horrible, it sounds terrible, it may be sacrilege, but that's what it was back then. But that's the best we could do under the circumstances in which we lived. But what that did, though, is that got a lot of citizens, a lot of our council members and people back in that time very concerned about the future of Allen and what are we going to do to fix this, because we knew that we needed to work on a lot of different things. Back then, we actually had a phone system such that if you called from Allen to Dallas, guess what? That was a long distance call. For those that can remember, that was a long distance call. We had to have an election to approve what they call EAS, or Extended Area Service, to be able to pay some extra money to avoid all of your calls being long distance to Dallas. It was kind of a crazy thing, but it passed, and that was a big thing because businesses didn't want to have long distance calls to Dallas, so that helped open the door to getting businesses in. Then over time, I had an election and approved both the Community Development Corporation. Obviously, you can see the impact of that today in our parks and recreation facilities and activities and hike and bike trails and all that other stuff. And then we also passed the Economic Development Corporation Board as well. And really what happened is that over a period of time, we slowly evolved. We slowly changed from that small bedroom community at that 77 cent tax rate to where now we're down to, what is it, about 42? Is that the rate? Pretty close to 42 cents per hundred. And one of the lowest tax rates in Collin County, by the way, when you look at all the big cities within the county. So I think that's a pretty big deal. We made a lot of changes, going from 10,000 up to really close to 115,000 people at this point in time. And now, when you talk to other cities, Allen is the example that they want to emulate. So when they're looking at an issue, who do they call to find out how to do it right? They call Allen. Back in the 1980s, who did you call to find out how to do things right? You call Plano. They don't call Plano anymore, they call Allen. I'm serious. I'm serious. You know, we were a little brother 30 years ago. We're big brother now, okay? Just so you know.
You just gave me a noogie.
What helped make these changes over time, besides the fact that I think we had some exceptional council members and mayors that came before us, but the other thing is we also had some outstanding city managers. I also was fortunate to work with all three of them. Our first city manager, John McCarty, may he rest in peace. He was the first. He was followed by Peter Vargas that was here for 20 plus or minus years. And then now we have Eric Elwang. They were all great city managers in their own right and in the ways and unique things that they did. They weren't all the same. They didn't do things the same, but each one of them have found a way to contribute to our city such that we are what we are today. And I just want to say thank you very much to Eric and to Peter if he's listening. I don't know where he's at. And to John upstairs. thank you for everything that you do to make our community what it is and as great as it is. I would be remiss if I didn't mention a few other key people just so they don't feel left out. I'm not trying to hurt any feelings or anything, but I also want to mention that some other key people from the third floor, our Deputy City Manager, Eric Strong, our Assistant City Managers, Tim Dentler and Rebecca Weiss, and each of the many directors in our city who are all significant contributors to our many successes during my tenure. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all very much for your help. Because of our key city staff members that helped me to be successful during my term as mayor, I can truly say that I achieved every goal that I set as mayor except for one. But because I was doing so well at achieving some of the goals, I set new ones. Just so I could make sure I could get some other things done if I had the ability to do it. And so all of those goals were achieved except for one, and any one that wasn't complete before I left was well on its way to being completed when I left office. So I'm pretty proud of that. So. As many of you know, my ability to be elected and serve a 3-year term was cut short by this little thing called COVID. Unfortunately, we had to deal with that. And so instead of being in a May election, kind of this so-called nonpartisan May election, the governor decided it was good to postpone everything into November, like COVID was going to go away, right? Did it go away? No. But anyway, so we moved it to November, and now all of a sudden it's full-on partisan politics, elections, presidential election, and being at the polls every day for a period of a couple of weeks, being in the middle of that, wow. It was very different. Why me, oh Lord? I don't know why, but I went through that. I was successful. The one good thing about that election is that we had the highest percentage of registered voters ever vote in the history of Allen. And because of that, that means that I can say, above and beyond any other mayor, that I got the most votes ever for mayor. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And because of that, hopefully we never go to November elections, by the way. I definitely don't want that. But that means that may be a record hard to beat. So just let you know. For half of my term, COVID created quite a few issues in our community and for the city. However, I think that we adjusted very well. We pivoted. We became better as a result of the actions that we took in response to COVID. And some of the things that we implemented during COVID are things that we still do today, because it just turned out that, there was kind of a paradigm shift. We shifted, and a lot of the way we did things shifted and actually turned out for the better, which was a very good thing. Unfortunately, it also created a lot of division among our citizens based on how we responded to and provided direction related to things such as mask, mandate, don't mandate, vaccinations, and many other things that y'all can think about. Regarding vaccinations, though, I think many of you can remember our super hub in Allen, Texas, and how good it was. The best place to get your vaccination in Collin County, in the state of Texas, in the entire country. What's very interesting is I found out that we had people from not only outside of Allen, but outside of Collin County, in the state of Texas, out of the state of Texas, and I know some people that came from overseas to get their vaccinations in Allen because they heard it was so good. What you may not know about all of that is that there was a lot of political pressure, and Eric can back me up on this. There was a lot of political pressure not to do what we did and go down a totally different path. I counseled with Eric, I counseled with our fire chief, Jonathan Boyd. We talked about what we had in place and what it would take to make changes and how we liked our system better. And we finally said, you know what? We think we're good with what we got. We're gonna stick with it. And I took a little bit of heat for that, but in the end, it was the best decision we could have ever made. It was a great thing, and I hope y'all remember it as that as well. By the end of the second year in office, I felt like things were starting to run smoother and that the council was starting to gel a little bit, and that we were starting to work much more effectively. And with that, that's kind of when I started setting new goals. But unfortunately, in the last month, while I was in office, as many of you realize and recall, we were confronted by evil at our doorstep on the afternoon of May 6th of this year, when we had the mass shooting out at our outlet mall up there off of Stacy and 75. We all now know that Allen's response was as good as it gets at all levels, and we really set the example for all others as to how anyone should respond to such an incident. When Governor Abbott visited the day after, prior to the vigil held here in Allen, he complimented us on our response and how we handled the aftermath. That was great to get that compliment. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about writing a book about it, just for your information. Maybe, maybe not, who knows? Sometimes I have ideas and sometimes I follow through, sometimes I don't. But anyway, I kind of thought that the title might be something to the effect of Navigating a Crisis in a Crazy World. How does that sound? Okay, all right. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But I want to say thank you to the Allen Police and Fire Departments for your exceptional service to our community on that day. I really want to say thank you to them for not only that day, but the days that followed, the weeks that followed, and the months that followed, because it is a process. It's not something that happens, in 2 weeks you box it up and put it away and it goes away. It is something that lingers for a long, long time. But the response was just spot on. And all the advice that we were given by the crisis management people and everything else we paid attention to. And I really do think that it paid us a lot of dividends to heed their advice on the way that we handled that. So I'm really happy about that, even though I wasn't too happy about the event at the time. I wanted to finish by saying that I truly enjoyed being the mayor of the city of Allen. This is the best elected position in all of Collin County, and Plano too, sorry about that. It's my time, so I can say that, right? Okay. When it's your time, you can rebut, okay? Going forward, I hope to continue to serve our community in many different ways in the future, whatever that might be. When I was getting off of council as mayor, several people said, hey, now that you get all this free time, why don't you do this, this, and this? And I said, you know what, time out. I think what I would really like to do is, I think I'm gonna not say yes to anything for about 4 to 6 months, because one, I wanna relax. I wanna take a really nice vacation, which I did, by the way. Ended up going to Europe, to the Netherlands, Germany, France, and Switzerland, and what a great time. But, I just wanted to kind of take my time and relax and enjoy life for a little while. And then once I see something that looks intriguing, maybe writing a book, who knows, I'll come back and maybe pursue that at a later time. As I consider this a great honor, I am truly humbled by this opportunity and want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to all of the citizens of Allen who trusted me in being at the helm of this great city. It has been my honor and privilege to serve you in this capacity. Again, thank you very much.